this car behind me is the new facelifted Mazda 2. It's supposed to be for a model year 2024, and this is the lower equipment level one, so probably the basic one, and maybe the one I would go, definitely the one I would go for, and maybe the one many people will go for. So let's have a closer look at it. So the first thing you notice is this fresh bit of trim that doesn't tell me anything why it is there, but it just looks fresh, and in the higher specification levels there is more of it on the car. We also have a more aerodynamic grille, as you can see. So all of this is plastic. You have an opening here, an opening here in the lower grille. We still have LED main headlights, which is nice, but then halogen lights around it. So that's quite okay from points of repairability and how cheap it will be. Let's have a look at the face of the car, which I have to say I really do like. Look at how daring it looks. Look at how angry the mouth is, and look at those angryish eyes. I really do like the face of the Mazda 2. It's a very characterful small car. Now let's go and have a look at the wheel. So we have a basic steelies, as you can see here, but we have a wheel covers on top of them. Quite an aerodynamic one, really, if you can see how small the openings on it are. Very aerodynamic. And in terms of tires, we have 185, 65, R15. So actually a typical width of a tire for a small car, and actually a correct width for a small car. It also has lower unsprung mass than if you had a bigger wheels with wider tires. So really, really good in this aspect. If we have a look at the suspension and its kinematics, I hope you can see that, but we have a very big amount of positive caster, which is great for a small car, and it is part of why this car drives so excellently. Then what is resolved extremely well is the conception. So look at this. The A-pillar is starting quite far from the front wheel, which is the correct way of designing the car. And then also look where is the steering wheel and where the driver sits. Look how far the driver sits from the front wheels. So it's actually almost at the rear wheels. It's much closer to the rear wheels than to the front wheels. And this is again a correct way of doing the conception of the car for the driver's feel when you're driving the car. So this is the best resolved conception in a small car category I have seen, right? Of course, the downside is that you get slightly less space in the rear, but actually the small cars, they are mostly for the children and at the rear, so it'll be okay. Here at the rear we have only a normal light, no LED. We have the eSky Active G, as this is a mild hybrid. We have one exhaust tip, aluminium one, looking shiny. And let's open the boot. So the doors are extremely light. We have a deep boot, which is not the biggest in its class, yes, but it doesn't matter. It's quite deep. It's very nicely usable. And under the floor mat, you have the air compressor, some tools, and that's about it. And you also get this bit of light that you can turn on or off like we are used to with Mazda cars. One interesting thing is that this rear screen wiper is the one I've actually seen in my neighbor's Mazda 2 from 2009, so it is the same wiper. So that's actually quite cool. Here on the left side, as it's proper in the Mazda, you have the fuel cap, so that's good. I am going to show you as well how it is to sit for a tall person behind myself. So this is it. I have to put my knees around the seat, and that's the way you do it. And this is the space for the head. Look at this. So just about right, really just about right for a tall person. And from terms of comfortability, not much to talk about, as there are no connectors for charging. You do get electric windows, you get your own locks, but that's really about it. And also for the children, 2 Isofix anchor points. Oh, so yes. And lastly, let me show you the engine. Under the bonnet, we are running a mild hybrid 1.5 liter Sky Active G engine. You can get this engine in 3 power variants for the Mazda 2, at least in my country. The basic one, 75 horsepower, middle one, 90 horsepower, which is this one, and the top of the range, the best one, I think it was 112 or 115 horsepower. And as this is a Mazda, very easy access in the engine bay to everything. Typical exhaust here at the rear that you can see very clearly. So yeah, no plastic for the engine mount, which is quite cool, which is nice. And you have the air intake just here. So yeah, it's really lovely in the engine bay. And well, that's about it to the closer look at the new Mazda 2. Now let's hop in and let's talk about how was the experience with this car. Well, good morning and welcome inside the, well, another facelift of the Mazda 2 for the model year 2024. And as I've said, this is the lower equipment one, and I have to say I really do love it. And that's because really I really do love this equipment, because you don't have the technologies that you don't need. You don't get a lot of these annoying assistants like the lane assist. You don't get that here or anything. So it's actually such a natural driving experience. Like in the past, you just get air conditioning, navigation here, and that's about it. You don't even get the reverse sensors. So I think it's pretty cool. Let me start up the car. So let me talk you through the interior. So in this lower equipment one, you do get harder plastic also on the dashboard, but it doesn't matter because it's still put together absolutely brilliantly. Nothing squeezed, not even this plastic trim on the interior. It's really nicely put together. You still have this synthetic leather here on the door handles. So really nice. And then what I absolutely love about the Mazda 2 interior, it is the only car in this class to use the rotating knobs for navigating the infotainment, so you don't have to press it with your greasy fingers like a yobbo. You just do it very elegantly here with these two rotating knobs. One is of course for the infotainment, the other one is for the volume, and it is such an elegant solution. I really do love it, and it is actually one of the reasons why I think this is the best car in its class, really. Maybe let's come to the seating position. Very low, like you expect in a Mazda, but still sort of I mean, you still feel like sitting slightly higher because this car is quite tall, actually, for a small car. But compared to the interior, it's nice and low. With the steering wheel, you get loads of adjustment, also lengthwise. So really good. Here on the left, you turn off the stability system and turn off the only assistant that is here, that is start and stop. That's pretty cool. And you have a manual gearbox. Finally, the last one I tested had automatic, which was really just not for this car, and the classical handbrake as well. And then here you have the normal knobs for the air conditioning, which I quite like. And then here you have the old version of the infotainment that we already know from very past Mazda cars, but it now has the option, of course, with the wireless Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto, as I use Android device now. Yeah, and on the steering wheel you still get cruise control, and here on this side you choose the information here on the display, and you can call, of course. Yeah, but anyway, let's start driving with the car and talk about the great experience that I had with it. So the first thing is how maneuverable it is. This really has to be under very far under 10 meters of diameter of turning circle. This is really cool how maneuverable this car is in the city, how small of a turning circle it does everywhere. So yeah, pretty lovely. And then what's the novelty here? As you can see, this is a slight hybrid. It's a mild hybrid powertrain, so we have this very miniature battery here which runs the equipment, it runs the air conditioning, it also helps the battery, and it helps the engine having less work overall. And all of that gives you a fantastic fuel efficiency. As you can see here, 5.1 liter is what I average during the whole week. So that includes normal driving, city driving, sporty driving, motorway at 130, 140. That is the one thing I'm going to tell you soon about how great it is there. So fantastic fuel efficiency. Not quite sure what is the size of the fuel tank, but I suppose it's up to 50 liters. I'm gonna put it here somewhere. Yeah, maybe then to the driving. So we have a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is great in a small car. We have an engine that has 90 horsepower, and this 6-speed gearbox is actually a long gear. It's quite long geared. You even have to adjust to it, because yeah, it is unusual. And what it's special at is that on the motorway at 130 kilometers per hour, it revs only just above 2000 RPM, which is extremely low for a small car, and yeah, for a 6-speed gearbox of Mazda. Secondly, because even the cars like Mazda 3 or Mazda 6, they don't rev such low RPM on the motorway, and this one has very low RPM on the motorway. So this is actually fantastic, and the consumption on the motorway at 130 is just around 6 liters this way. So this is absolutely amazing efficiency by this car, and I actually do love how it is geared. I mean, yeah, I was so staggered by this on the motorway that I was like, wow, I want this car. This is absolutely perfect, right? Yeah, so that is really good. And then of course what is good is the driver feeling and the pleasure from driving. So we have a fantastic conception. Me as a driver, still while being in a small car, I'm sitting very far from the front wheels, behind the center of the wheelbase, which is absolutely fantastic. I have therefore a fantastic feeling from the car. Also, it is done correctly from terms of suspension, so we have loads of positive casts on the front. It is definitely intensely it is leaning onto the outer rear wheel in the corners, just like here. Look at it, here comes the corner onto the outer rear wheel. Absolutely great, very correct behavior. And the damping, it just controls the body very well. It doesn't bounce on any type of undulation. Even with a full car, you just adjust the tire pressures, which are quite high when you load up the car, 2.7 front and 3.2 in the rear, and it just soaks up everything, and it's still quite stiff and quite controlled. So yeah, I mean, it's really great how this car drives. It's also so fun, and also as it's a small car, you have this fantastic manual, probably the best manual stick in a normal small car. Very mechanical, very short throws, so you get loads of fun from driving this car. You feel like you're 18 again. I feel like I was 18 again in my Renault Clio, and I was pushing through the city, through the traffic, like a small bulldog. You know, I felt just and so happy. It makes you smile so hard. It's really fantastic, this car. Also, even despite being a low equipment level, it's nicely isolated. So on the motorway we are just somewhere around 60 decibels, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so wow, I mean, I'm really staggered by this car. Just the engine, and the engine is like, the more you rev it, the more it has to give. Let me put it into second gear with at 3000. Wow, it really is. The more you rev this engine, the more power you get, the more happy you are with the dynamics. it becomes alive, this engine, and that's pretty cool about it. It's a lot of fun with this manual gearbox. I really don't know why would anyone go for the automatic gearbox with this car. It is absolutely fantastic gearbox, this. Yeah, and the steering, sharp, precise, communicative with you. You know what's going on beneath you on the road. Just yeah, it is still a Mazda. It is still a proper Mazda, and you feel that. You love the way it drives through the bumpy road, how nicely balanced it is. Also for a front wheel drive, it definitely has a nice weight distribution, because Mazdas, they always do for a front wheel drive cars. So it is just excuse me, as a package, fantastic, really. And for the price of only 17 and something thousand euros, I mean, just absolutely great. Yeah, so maybe let's come to the likes and dislikes. And in between the dislikes, well, I don't really have any dislikes that would piss me off, maybe apart from this infotainment that really is old, yes, and it happened to me that it lagged a few times. So yeah, it froze a few times, but apart from that, really nothing that would piss me off. Of course, as I said, if you're a practical person, you wouldn't like that there isn't that much of a space in the rear, and the boot is slightly smaller than some of its competitors that have a bigger boot, like the Peugeot 208, I think there is. The Fabia has a bigger boot for sure, and the Clio, definitely. Clio has the biggest boot. Yeah, but there are only likes with this car. Design, fantastic. Daring face, aerodynamic face now, with more plastic on the grille. So then a great engine. We have a 13 compression ratio in this engine to 1.5, atmospheric engine, naturally aspirated, so you aren't going to experience any problems with the turbo, for example. So it's gonna be reliable. It will be able to do 300,000 kilometers without any problem. I love the gearing on the car. These long gears, once you adjust to it, you just don't want to change it. I mean, yeah, for the efficiency on the long travels on the motorway, it's just fantastic. I mean, to have a small car that has a longer 6th gear than the bigger cars from Mazda is just fantastic. I mean, yeah, that's really good. And then, of course, the way it drives, which is the correct in every aspect from what a real driver that wants to have fun and wants to feel one with the car need. So yeah, caster cambers are done very well. More negative camber at the rear. It seems like a slight toe-in for fun, but the car really is just so stable at the rear, in the corners. It just goes flat through any bumps and undulations on the road. The damping is extremely well set up, good for the body control, but not uncomfortable. It's just fantastic. I really do love this car, and I tell you, this is the best car in its class. So if you're looking for the best in its class, if you want to have fun and involvement behind the steering wheel, go for the Mazda 2. You will be extremely happy with it. So yeah, that's about it to the recap of the Mazda 2 2024. And well, if you liked the video and if it was useful, well, keep watching, keep subscribing. That will help me the most to make these sort of videos. And well, I hope to see you in the very next video. In the meantime, take care of you, be happy, and goodbye. Here comes the rail crossing. We're doing 80. Oh, so flat. The front first goes up, it doesn't go down immediately. Just the correct behavior, this. Wow, what a great car. And I love how it looks when I see myself in another car.